Tchila Olam Machshava, the Almighty, the Banish Olam Machshava, when he went to create the world, so his first thought was to create Midas Hadin, to create the world with strict absolute justice. But then, he saw that man with his weaknesses, temptations, in Yochel Eskayim, the world cannot exist under strict absolute justice. So he made a partner in creation, Midas Harachim, compassion, mercy, Rachmanis. How do we understand the words of our sages? First of all, of what value is it to us to know what the Almighty's, what moral could there be in it to know what the Almighty's first thought was in creating the world, and then and what his the conclusion was, and how can we understand? How can we conceive something like that? The Almighty changing His mind. Look at the calendar. We're now 14 shopping days until the day of reckoning, until New Year's to Rosh Hashanah. 14 more shopping days. It's a time when, in retrospection, a person has to make an accounting of his deeds and how he conducted himself in the last 12 months. It's a time when, right before New Year's, we have what we call New Year's resolutions. Everybody makes resolutions to be a better Jew, a better husband, a better child, a better parent, better neighbor, all sorts of resolutions, and they're made definitely, there's no question about it, they're made in sincerity, with complete faith, that they hope to keep them. But it's like the story that they tell with a lady who was rushed to the emergency room, and she ate fish for dinner, and the bone was stuck in her throat, and she was gasping for life. She was choking to death. She rushed to the emergency room, brought in a surgeon, put on anesthesia, removed the bone, and after the surgery, so she went for the final visit. So she asked the doctor, "Thank you so very much, doctor." She says, "How much do I owe you for the surgery, for your care?" So he said, "Yeah, lady," he said, "I'd be happy if you'd give me half as much as you think it was worth while the bone was still stuck in there." So at the time, we really were very sincere about it, but then a good percentage of it falls by the wayside. But there definitely is value in it. There's in understanding, in machshava, and thought, realizing right from wrong, and there's also deeds, what we actually follow through with. There can be many times a gap from how we would like to live and how we actually do live. What we like to accomplish, what we actually do accomplish. So there's many times a distance between the two. But the difference is this. When someone goes to build build a building, so if the foundation is built straight, level, so the building will stand. But even though there might be a leak in the roof, that won't harm the structure. The building can stand for many, many years with leaky roofs. But if it's built on a crooked foundation, it won't stand. A thought, that's the foundation of a human being. What we think, understanding. To understand right from wrong. What's right in practice, if we're only human beings, in practice, if we can't really follow through, that the Almighty takes into consideration. We can't follow through. But to understand, not to say, it's okay, this is fine, that's fine, we do this, we do that, we don't observe this mitzvah, this for not these days, it's for olden times, not for these times, whatever reason it is. No, that's wrong. You'd like to do it, you understand it's right, It has a lot of value. It enriches us. It was given to the Almighty. It was given at a stand at Mount Sinai thousands of years ago. We all vowed, Naseh v'nishma, we will obey and we'll listen. We undertook 613. If you're not able to do all of them, do some of them. Whatever you can do, you do. So the Almighty, that's the difference. That's what the meaning of our sages. That the Almighty, it should be, our thought should be in order. Our thinking process, our ideals, our ideas, our understanding, what's right, what's wrong, that has to be in order. Whether we follow through or not, that's something else. There was one time a gentleman who made a living from smuggling contraband across the border in Russia and Poland. So he decided it's fraught with too much danger and he can't go on living that way. So he decided he's going to stop. But he just had one very profitable load that he wanted to go across the border. So he decided that in order for that the Almighty should help him, he shouldn't be punished, get into trouble, be arrested, or even more consequences. So he went to a great Hasidic rabbi. He says to Rebbe, he says, I made my livelihood, I made throughout my life from smuggling contraband across the border. He said, but I decided it's not a way to live. He said, I don't sleep nights. He said, I'm going to give it up. But I just have one last load, a very profitable load that I want to cross the border with. Please give me your blessing that I should be successful and I shouldn't fall into I shouldn't be any serious consequences. So he says to my dear Jew, he says, the first thing is, it shows that you have a lack of faith, that you think the only way that you have in your mind set, the only way you can earn a living is through contraband. Your Almighty is the one that sustains us. We don't have to go through all these crooked dealings to make a living. The Almighty is the one that sustains us. But secondly, he said, let me tell you a story. He said, there was one time a group of landowners in Poland. Poland was heavily laden with anti-Semitism, and they were sitting together, a group of landowners that had many Jewish tenants, sharecroppers, or however they, whatever condition terms they rented their property with, and they started drinking, and it didn't take long. They started to service all their anti-Semitism. Well, they couldn't find enough words to describe what kind of low human being a Jew is. One was sitting there. He said, "No," he said, "You excuse me, my dear friends." He said, "I have a Jew, one of my tenants, who is very decent and very devoted." He said, "And whatever I'll ask him to do, he says he cares for me so. There's nothing that'll turn me down." He said, "Really?" They said to him. He said, "Yeah, absolutely. Nothing in the world? Right. Let me ask you," they said, "and if you'd ask him that you should convert, you should become a goy, a Gentile, he'll do that also?" He said, "Absolutely, no question about it." He wouldn't even hesitate. He said, "I'll prove it to you." He goes and he has the Jew summoned to come to this drinking party. Oh my goodness, the Jew takes a look, they're all dead drunk. They're facing him a bunch of drunken anti-Semites, and he puts them like on the stand. He says, "Moshke," that's how they call the Jew. He said, "Aren't you very devoted to me?" He says, "Absolutely." What's he going to say? No. He says, "There's nothing that I would ask you would turn me down." He says, "Absolutely not." He said, "Even if I asked you that you should go with me now to the priest and he'll sprinkle water on you and you'll convert to Catholicism, you do that also?" He looked at all these drunks sitting there. He was afraid to say anything else. He said, "Yes, I'll do it." So they brought a priest. They performed the ceremony, and congratulations, you're one of our brothers. You're a goy, a Catholic, and shake it. A day or two later, he repented. He felt that he did something that he should not. That's going a little too far. And he asked him something else, but to ask him to convert, was a Jew to convert, my goodness. So he ran to his house, knocked on the door. He said, my dear Jew, he says, I apologize. Oh, he said, forgive me, I never should have done something like that. He said, please, do me a favor, I'm giving you permission, you become a Jew again. He said, I don't want to have in my conscience what I did to you. So the Yid says to him, he said, my parents, he said, my dear master, he said, I appreciate very much your decency, your kindness, but I'll tell you, he said, in about 3 weeks, it was right before Pesach, he said, in 3 weeks, there's a holiday which is a very expensive one. He said, to observe that holiday is quite a financial burden. Yeah, I appreciate your offer, but please let me be a goy until after Pesach. so that's the Bechila Machshot. Chavali ben Akai Shoemer, Ratzah Kodesh Baruch Hu Zakesh, Es Yisrael, the people of Kibron Per Mitzvah Shinamar, Adonai Chavetz